There comes a moment in every person's life when they realize they are tired. Not physically tired, but emotionally exhausted. Tired of carrying the opinions of other people like chains around their neck. Tired of replaying conversations in their mind at 3 in the morning. Tired of allowing rejection, disrespect, silence, criticism, betrayal, and failure to control their emotions like puppets hanging from invisible strings. Most people spend their entire lives reacting. Someone ignores them, and their peace disappears. Someone insults them, and their confidence crumbles. Someone leaves them, and suddenly they question their worth. A small inconvenience ruins their day. One mistake becomes a permanent identity. One painful memory becomes a prison cell they decorate and live inside forever. But the Stoics understood something the modern world desperately wants you to forget. Your peace is your responsibility. Not your partner's responsibility. Not society's responsibility. Not your family's responsibility. Not your enemy's responsibility. Yours. And once you master this truth, your entire life changes. Because the truth is, nothing outside of you has the power to destroy you unless you hand over permission. Think about that. Every insult only becomes pain after your mind accepts it. Every disappointment only becomes suffering after your thoughts attach meaning to it. Every betrayal only controls your future when you continue reliving it in your imagination. The Stoics were not emotionless people. They felt pain. They felt loss. They felt grief. But they refused to become servants to temporary emotions. That is what made them powerful. And in this video, you are going to learn the mindset that can make you emotionally untouchable. Not cold. Not heartless. Not disconnected. But deeply calm. Deeply grounded. Deeply free. Before we begin, subscribe to the channel and join this journey toward inner strength, discipline, and peace. Every video here is designed to sharpen your mind, strengthen your spirit, and help you become the most unshakable version of yourself. Now listen carefully. The first thing you must understand is that most suffering comes from resistance. People resist reality constantly. They resist aging. They resist rejection. They resist uncertainty. They resist endings. They resist discomfort. They resist criticism. But reality does not negotiate. The rain does not stop because you complain. The night does not disappear because you fear darkness. People do not become loyal because you desperately want them to stay. The Stoics believe that peace begins the moment you stop fighting what already exists. Marcus Aurelius once reminded himself that every morning he would encounter difficult people. Rude people. Selfish people. Manipulative people. Ungrateful people. Why? Because expecting perfection from the world guarantees disappointment. The emotionally weak person says, "Why is this happening to me?" The Stoic says, "This is part of life." That single shift changes everything. Because when you stop expecting life to obey your preferences, you stop becoming emotionally shattered every time reality behaves like reality. A storm does not ask for your permission. Loss does not schedule itself conveniently. People will misunderstand you. Some people will betray you. Some people will leave without explanation. And none of this is proof that life is against you. It is proof that life is life. Once you accept this, you become calmer. You stop taking everything personally. And this is where emotional freedom begins. Most people are addicted to emotional chaos. They wake up and immediately check who texted them, who viewed their story, who liked their post, who validated their existence. Their emotional state depends entirely on external reactions. That is not power. That is slavery. If someone else controls your mood, they control your life. Read that again in your mind. If someone else controls your mood, they control your life. The Stoics trained themselves to build an inner world stronger than the outer world. That means your confidence cannot depend on applause. Your peace cannot depend on circumstances. Your value cannot depend on acceptance. Because the world changes constantly. People praise you today and criticize you tomorrow. One moment you are admired. The next moment you are forgotten. If your identity depends on unstable things, your emotions will always be unstable too. This is why emotionally strong people move differently. They do not beg for attention. They do not chase approval. They do not collapse when ignored. Because they understand something powerful. Silence from others does not reduce your worth. Rejection does not reduce your worth. Failure does not reduce your worth. Your value is not determined by external outcomes. A diamond remains valuable even if nobody recognizes it buried beneath the ground. And you must stop measuring yourself using the opinions of people who are still confused about their own lives. One of the greatest lessons in Stoicism is learning the difference between what you control and what you do not. You control your thoughts. You control your actions. You control your discipline. You control your mindset. You control your response. But you do not control how others behave. You do not control the past. You do not control the economy. You do not control who stays or leaves. You do not control whether people understand your heart. And the moment you stop trying to control uncontrollable things, your anxiety begins to disappear. Think about how much energy people waste. Trying to make everyone like them. Trying to change someone's mind. Trying to force love. Trying to rewrite the past. Trying to prevent uncertainty. And in the process, they destroy their peace. The Stoic asks a simple question. Is this within my control? If the answer is yes, they act. If the answer is no, they release it. That is emotional maturity. Not reacting emotionally to everything. Not turning every inconvenience into a crisis. Not allowing temporary emotions to become permanent decisions. You see, emotions are real, but they are not always truthful. Anger can lie. Fear can lie. Insecurity can lie. Your mind can convince you that one rejection means nobody will ever love you. Your mind can convince you that one failure means you are worthless. Your mind can convince you that criticism defines your identity. But Stoicism teaches observation instead of immediate reaction. Instead of saying, I am angry, you begin saying, I notice anger. That small difference is powerful. Because now you are no longer becoming the emotion. You are observing it. And once you observe something clearly, it loses some of its control over you. This is why calm people are dangerous. Not dangerous because they are violent. Dangerous because they are disciplined. While everyone else is reacting impulsively, they are thinking. While everyone else is drowning emotionally, they are steady. While everyone else is controlled by panic, they remain grounded. That level of emotional control changes your entire life. Imagine someone insulting you, expecting a reaction, but instead they meet calmness. Imagine failure knocking you down, but instead of collapsing, you quietly rebuild. Imagine betrayal entering your life, but instead of becoming bitter forever, you heal with dignity and move forward. That is strength. Real strength is not loud. It is not dramatic. It is not performative. Real strength is silent self-control. Most people only focus on controlling the outside. Very few people master the inside. And the inside is where every battle begins. You must understand that your mind is either your greatest weapon or your greatest prison. Every day, people torture themselves with thoughts. They replay old embarrassment. They imagine future disasters. They obsess over opinions. They create suffering that does not even exist yet. Seneca once said that people suffer more in imagination than in reality. And it is true. Many people are not destroyed by events. They are destroyed by their interpretation of events. Two people can experience the same hardship. One becomes wiser. The other becomes broken. The difference is perspective. Stoicism teaches that adversity is not always punishment. Sometimes it is training. The hardest moments in your life often reveal who you truly are. Comfort hides weakness. Difficulty exposes it. That heartbreak taught you strength. That betrayal taught you discernment. That loneliness taught you independence. That failure taught you humility. You survived things you once thought would destroy you. Never forget that. You are stronger than your temporary emotions. But strength requires discipline. And discipline is what modern society avoids. People want comfort without growth. They want confidence without struggle. They want peace without self-control. But peace is earned internally. You cannot build a calm mind while constantly feeding chaos. Look at the world. Constant noise. Constant comparison. Constant distraction. Constant outrage. People consume negativity every hour and then wonder why they feel anxious. The Stoics understood the importance of protecting the mind. Not every argument deserves your energy. Not every opinion deserves your attention. Not every battle deserves your participation. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is walk away. Silence is power. Especially in a world addicted to reaction. You do not need to defend yourself against every accusation. You do not need to prove your worth to people committed to misunderstanding you. You do not need to explain your vision to people who cannot see beyond their own limitations. Learn to let people think whatever they want. Their opinions are not your identity. This is one of the most liberating truths you will ever understand. People see you through the lens of their own experiences, insecurities, and assumptions. Some people will misunderstand you no matter how genuine you are. Some people will dislike you no matter how kind you are. Some people will judge you no matter how much you sacrifice. Trying to control everybody's perception of you is emotional suicide. The Stoic focuses instead on character. Because reputation is what others think. Character is who you actually are. And character matters more. When your character becomes strong, external chaos loses influence over you. A person with weak character collapses under pressure. A person with strong character becomes calmer during storms. This is why emotional mastery is not about suppressing emotions. It is about training your mind not to become enslaved by them. Anyone can remain calm when life is easy. But can you remain calm during rejection? Can you remain calm during uncertainty? Can you remain calm when things do not go your way? That is the real test. And every difficult moment becomes an opportunity to practice Stoicism. Traffic becomes practice. Criticism becomes practice. Delays become practice. Failure becomes practice. Instead of saying, "Why is this happening?" you begin asking, "How can this strengthen me?" That mindset transforms pain into power. Because your struggles can either harden your wisdom or poison your spirit. The choice is yours. One of the most dangerous emotional traps is attachment. Not love. Attachment. There is a difference. Love is appreciation. Attachment is dependency. Attachment says, "I cannot be okay without this person." Stoicism teaches that everything external is temporary. People leave. Money disappears. Beauty fades. Positions change. Health can shift unexpectedly. And if your peace depends entirely on temporary things, suffering becomes inevitable. This does not mean you should never love deeply. It means you should never lose yourself while loving someone else. You should enjoy life without clinging desperately to it. The Stoics practiced gratitude precisely because they understood impermanence. When you realize nothing lasts forever, you begin appreciating ordinary moments more deeply. A conversation. A sunrise. A quiet evening. A loved one's laughter. Instead of taking everything for granted, you become present. And presence creates peace. Most anxiety lives in the future. Most regret lives in the past. Peace lives in the present moment. Right now. Not next year. Not after success. Not after validation. Not after everyone finally understands you. Right now. The Stoic understands that life is happening in this moment. And many people waste their lives mentally absent. They are physically present but emotionally trapped somewhere else. Thinking about what was. Thinking about what could happen. Thinking about what others think. Meanwhile, life quietly passes them by. Emotional mastery requires awareness. Awareness of your thoughts. Awareness of your reactions. Awareness of your habits. Because unconscious habits create unconscious suffering. Notice how quickly your mood changes after certain triggers. A message. A comment. A memory. A comparison. Most people react automatically. The Stoic pauses. That pause is power. Between stimulus and response exists freedom. And the person who masters that space becomes unstoppable. Imagine no longer being controlled by impulse. No longer exploding in anger instantly. No longer begging for validation. No longer panicking over uncertainty. No longer allowing one bad moment to ruin your entire day. That is freedom. And freedom begins internally. One of the greatest signs of emotional weakness is the inability to be alone. Many people fear silence because silence forces them to confront themselves. So they constantly seek distraction, noise, entertainment, attention, relationships, anything to avoid sitting with their own thoughts. But the Stoics valued solitude. Because solitude reveals truth. When you sit quietly with yourself, you begin noticing what controls you. Your insecurities, your fears, your unresolved pain, your ego. And only what is acknowledged can be healed. Running from yourself guarantees lifelong suffering. Facing yourself creates transformation. This is why emotionally strong people spend time alone without feeling lonely. They have built a relationship with themselves. They are not desperate for constant external stimulation because they are internally grounded. And when you become grounded internally, people lose the power to emotionally manipulate you. Manipulation only works on unmet emotional needs. The desperate need for approval. The desperate fear of abandonment. The desperate hunger for validation. When you heal internally, manipulation loses power. You stop chasing people who disrespect you. You stop tolerating behavior that destroys your peace. You stop shrinking yourself to fit into places where you are not valued. That is self-respect. And self-respect changes everything. Many people say they want peace, but secretly they are addicted to emotional drama. Chaos feels familiar. Toxicity feels exciting. Emotional instability feels normal. Healthy peace feels boring to wounded minds. But true strength is calmness. Not because nothing affects you, but because you have trained your mind not to drown in every emotion. The Stoics understood mortality deeply. They reflected often on death. Not to become fearful, but to become awake. Because when you remember life is temporary, you stop wasting time on meaningless emotional battles. You stop holding grudges for years. You stop obsessing over petty opinions. You stop postponing your happiness. You realize how precious your time truly is. One day, every argument will be irrelevant. Every insult forgotten. Every social status erased. So why spend your limited existence emotionally imprisoned by things that ultimately do not matter? Ask yourself honestly. How much of your suffering comes from reality itself? And how much comes from your interpretation of reality? That question can change your life. Because often the mind creates stories. They ignored me because I am worthless. I failed because I am incapable. They left because I am unlovable. But these are interpretations, not facts. And once you realize your thoughts are not automatically truth, you begin reclaiming your emotional freedom. The Stoics practiced mental discipline daily. Not occasionally. Daily. Because emotional strength is not built during comfort. It is built through consistent practice. Every difficult interaction becomes training. Every disappointment becomes training. Every challenge becomes training. And slowly, your mind changes. You stop reacting immediately. You stop taking everything personally. You stop expecting perfection from life. You become calmer. More patient. More grounded. That calmness intimidates people. Because emotionally reactive people are predictable. But emotionally disciplined people are powerful. When someone cannot control your emotions anymore, they cannot control you. And many people unconsciously try to control others emotionally. Through guilt. Through manipulation. Through approval. Through rejection. But once you stop depending emotionally on external reactions, you become free. Freedom is not having a perfect life. Freedom is maintaining inner peace despite imperfect circumstances. That is the Stoic way. Some of the strongest people you will ever meet have suffered deeply. But instead of becoming bitter, they became wiser. Pain can deepen you. If you allow it. The emotionally weak person asks, Why me? The emotionally strong person asks. What is this teaching me? That perspective transforms suffering. And make no mistake, life will test you. There will be seasons where everything feels uncertain, moments where your heart feels heavy, times where loneliness echoes loudly. But remember this: you have survived every difficult day you thought would break you, every heartbreak, every failure, every disappointment. You are still here, stronger, wiser, more aware. Never underestimate your resilience. The human spirit is incredibly powerful when disciplined properly. But discipline requires honesty. You must become honest about the habits destroying your peace. Maybe it is constant comparison. Maybe it is overthinking. Maybe it is emotional dependence. Maybe it is seeking validation. Maybe it is refusing to let go of the past. Whatever it is, confront it honestly. Stoicism is not about pretending to be strong. It is about becoming strong through awareness and discipline. And that journey begins internally. You cannot heal what you refuse to face. Sometimes the greatest act of courage is sitting quietly and admitting the truth to yourself. Yes, you were hurt. Yes, you were disappointed. Yes, you were betrayed. But you do not have to remain emotionally chained to those experiences forever. Healing begins when you stop identifying yourself entirely through pain. Your suffering is part of your story. It is not your identity. And too many people build their entire identity around wounds. They become attached to victimhood, attached to resentment, attached to emotional chaos. But Stoicism teaches responsibility. Not responsibility for everything that happened to you. Responsibility for how you choose to move forward. That distinction matters. You cannot always control what life gives you. But you can control what you become because of it. Will pain make you cruel? Or compassionate? Will betrayal make you bitter? Or wiser? Will rejection destroy your confidence? Or strengthen your independence? The choice is always yours. And that realization is empowering. Because it means your future is not entirely dictated by your past. You are not permanently defined by what hurt you. You can rebuild. You can evolve. You can transform. But transformation requires letting go. Let go of the need to control everything. Let go of the need for universal approval. Let go of the obsession with the past. Let go of emotional dependency. The more tightly you cling to things outside your control, the more fragile your peace becomes. The Stoics practiced detachment. Not because they lacked love, but because they understood impermanence. Everything in life is borrowed. Every moment. Every relationship. Every experience. And when you understand this deeply, gratitude replaces entitlement. You stop demanding permanence from temporary things. That shift creates emotional peace. Another powerful Stoic principle is voluntary discomfort. Modern society trains people to avoid discomfort at all costs. Instant pleasure. Instant entertainment. Instant gratification. But avoiding discomfort weakens the mind. The Stoics intentionally practiced discomfort sometimes. Cold weather. Simple meals. Silence. Discipline. Why? Because they wanted to prove to themselves that they could survive hardship. And that confidence changes how you move through life. When you know you can endure difficulty, fear loses power over you. Many people are controlled by fear. Fear of rejection. Fear of failure. Fear of judgment. Fear of loneliness. But fear shrinks when confronted. Every time you face discomfort voluntarily, your confidence grows. You begin realizing that most fears are exaggerated stories created by the mind. And once you stop running from discomfort, you stop becoming emotionally fragile. Fragility comes from overprotection. Strength comes from resilience. A tree becomes stronger because it survives storms. Your mind is no different. The goal is not to avoid every painful experience. The goal is to become the type of person who can endure pain without losing themselves. That is emotional mastery. Imagine walking through life without constantly needing reassurance. Without constantly fearing opinions. without constantly reacting emotionally. Imagine how much energy would return to your life. Energy currently wasted on overthinking. Energy wasted on resentment. Energy wasted on anxiety. That reclaimed energy becomes focus, purpose, peace. The Stoics believed your inner world determines the quality of your outer world. A chaotic mind creates chaotic living. A disciplined mind creates stability. This is why protecting your mind matters. Be careful what you consume. Be careful who influences you. Be careful which thoughts you repeatedly entertain. Because repeated thoughts become beliefs. And beliefs shape your reality. If you constantly tell yourself you are weak, your actions will reflect weakness. If you constantly tell yourself life is hopeless, your perspective will darken. But if you train yourself to respond with courage, patience, and discipline, your entire life changes gradually. Not overnight. Gradually. Stoicism is not magic. It is practice. Daily practice. And the beautiful thing is that anyone can begin. Right now. Not when life becomes perfect. Not when you finally feel ready. Right now. The next time someone insults you, pause before reacting. The next time anxiety rises, observe it instead of becoming consumed by it. The next time disappointment arrives, ask what it can teach you. These small moments build emotional strength. Because your habits shape your character. And character shapes destiny. One of the hardest truths to accept is that nobody is coming to save you emotionally. Not completely. People can support you, love you, encourage you. But ultimately, you must build your own inner stability. Depending entirely on others for emotional survival creates suffering. You must become emotionally self-sufficient. That means learning how to comfort yourself, guide yourself, discipline yourself, ground yourself. It means becoming your own source of strength. And when you become emotionally grounded, relationships become healthier too. Because now you are loving from fullness instead of desperation. You stop saying, "Complete me," and start saying, "Walk beside me." That is mature love. The Stoics understood that attachment creates fear. The more desperately you cling, the more terrified you become of loss. And fear destroys peace. But when you understand that your inner stability does not depend entirely on external circumstances, fear weakens. You begin living with greater courage. You stop shrinking yourself to avoid rejection. You stop abandoning your values to gain acceptance. You stop tolerating disrespect out of fear of loneliness. Because you finally realize that protecting your peace matters. Not selfishly. Wisely. Some people will call your calmness coldness. Let them. Not reacting emotionally to chaos does not mean you lack feelings. It means you have learned discipline. And discipline often confuses people who are controlled by impulse. The world rewards reaction. Stoicism rewards reflection. Anyone can lose control. Few people can remain centered under pressure. That is rare. And rarity creates power. You do not need to become emotionally numb. Feel deeply. Love deeply. Care deeply. But never surrender the steering wheel of your life to temporary emotions. Because emotions change constantly. One day you feel motivated. Another day you feel tired. One day confident. Another day uncertain. If your entire life depends on emotional states, you will remain inconsistent forever. The Stoics valued principles over feelings. Discipline over impulse. Purpose over comfort. That is why they remained strong even during hardship. Your emotions are weather. Your character is climate. Weather changes quickly. Climate endures. Build enduring character. There will always be people who misunderstand your growth. Some people preferred the version of you that lacked boundaries. The version that tolerated disrespect. The version that constantly sought approval. But growth changes relationships. And that is okay. Not everyone is meant to accompany you into your next chapter. Sometimes emotional mastery requires disappointing people. Especially people who benefited from your emotional weakness. The moment you stop reacting predictably, manipulators become uncomfortable. The moment you stop begging for validation, insecure people become confused. The moment you stop tolerating disrespect, toxic people call you difficult. Do not let that discourage you. Growth often looks offensive to people committed to dysfunction. Keep growing anyway. Keep becoming calmer, stronger, more disciplined, more self-aware. You owe yourself that evolution. Imagine the version of yourself that no longer loses sleep over opinions. The version that handles rejection with dignity. The version that faces uncertainty with courage. The version that protects peace more than ego. That version of you already exists within you. But it requires training. Every day you either strengthen your mind or weaken it. Every thought repeated becomes easier to repeat again. Every reaction practiced becomes more automatic. That is why awareness matters. Notice your patterns. Notice what steals your peace. Notice what triggers insecurity. Notice what feeds emotional chaos. Awareness is the beginning of transformation. The Stoics constantly reflected on themselves. Not obsessively. Honestly. Self-awareness creates emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence is one of the greatest forms of power. Because once you understand yourself deeply, other people lose the ability to control you easily. You stop acting purely from wounds. You stop reacting purely from ego. You stop confusing temporary feelings with permanent truth. You become centered. And centered people move differently through life. They do not rush impulsively. They do not panic constantly. They do not collapse emotionally every time something unexpected happens. They breathe. Observe. Respond wisely. That response changes outcomes. A calm mind sees solutions. A panicked mind sees only problems. This is why inner peace is practical power, not just spiritual comfort. A calm person makes better decisions, maintains healthier relationships, handles pressure more effectively, thinks more clearly. Emotional discipline improves every area of life: career, relationships, leadership, health, purpose. Because every external action begins internally. The quality of your life is deeply connected to the quality of your mind. Protect it. Train it. Respect it. One of the most freeing realizations is understanding that not every thought deserves belief. Your mind produces thousands of thoughts daily. Some wise. Some irrational. Some fearful. Some distorted. The Stoics practiced questioning their thoughts instead of blindly obeying them. That is powerful. Because many people live as prisoners of unchallenged thinking. I am not good enough. Nothing will ever improve. Everybody is against me. But are these facts? Or emotional narratives? Learning to separate reality from emotional interpretation changes your life. This is why journaling was important to many Stoics. Writing reveals patterns. It forces clarity. When thoughts remain unexamined inside the mind, they often grow larger and more terrifying. But when examined calmly, many fears lose intensity. You begin realizing that much of your suffering came from assumptions, catastrophizing, and imagined scenarios. The mind can be dramatic. Stoicism teaches steadiness. Ground yourself in reality, not emotional exaggeration. And remember this deeply. You do not need to win every argument. Peace is more valuable than ego. Many people destroy relationships, opportunities, and their own emotional stability because they are addicted to being right. The Stoics understood that wisdom matters more than pride. Sometimes silence is wiser. Sometimes walking away is wiser. Sometimes letting people misunderstand you is wiser. Not every misunderstanding needs correction. Your peace matters. Protect it. The world will constantly attempt to pull you into emotional reaction. News, social media, conflict, comparison, drama. But you do not have to participate in every emotional storm. Choose carefully what deserves your energy. Energy is life. And where your attention goes, your emotional state follows. Feed your mind wisely. Spend more time building yourself than obsessing over others. Spend more time creating peace than consuming chaos. Spend more time strengthening discipline than feeding impulse. Little by little, your entire inner world changes. And eventually people notice something different about you. You no longer react the same. You no longer panic the same. You no longer chase the same things. There is a calmness in your presence. A groundedness in your spirit. That is emotional mastery. And no, it does not mean life becomes painless. You will still experience sadness, loss, disappointment. But now pain visits without permanently destroying you. You bend instead of breaking. That resilience becomes your superpower. Life respects resilient people. Not because life becomes easier for them, but because they become stronger. Never underestimate the strength of a disciplined mind. A disciplined mind can endure rejection without losing confidence. A disciplined mind can endure criticism without losing identity. A disciplined mind can endure uncertainty without collapsing into fear. That is rare. And rarity creates greatness. The Stoics believed that your response to life matters more than life itself. Two people can stand in the same storm. One curses the darkness. The other learns how to navigate. Be the second person. Life is not asking you to become emotionless. It is asking you to become wiser with your emotions. To stop allowing temporary feelings to dictate permanent actions. To stop surrendering your peace so easily. To stop building your identity around external validation. You are capable of far more emotional strength than you realize. But strength requires practice. Daily practice. Every moment is an opportunity. An opportunity to pause. An opportunity to reflect. An opportunity to choose wisdom over impulse. And every time you choose discipline over reaction, you become stronger. Bit by bit. Day by day. Until one day, situations that once destroyed your peace barely shake you. Not because life changed. Because you changed. That is the true power of Stoicism. Transformation from the inside outward. And perhaps the greatest lesson of all is this. You already possess everything necessary to begin. The strength. The awareness. The resilience. It is already within you. You simply must train it. Stop underestimating yourself. You have endured pain before. You have survived uncertainty before. You have rebuilt yourself before. There is strength inside you that difficult seasons revealed. Trust it. Trust your ability to endure. Trust your ability to adapt. Trust your ability to rise again. Because life will continue testing you. But every challenge can either deepen your wisdom or deepen your suffering. Choose wisdom. Choose discipline. Choose peace. Not because it is easy. Because it is freedom. And freedom is priceless. The moment you stop allowing external events to dominate your inner state, you reclaim your life. You stop being emotionally dragged by every opinion, every inconvenience, every rejection. You become steady. Grounded. Centered. Powerful. Not through aggression. Not through control. Through self-mastery. And self-mastery is one of the rarest forms of strength in the modern world. Most people are mastered by impulse. Mastered by distraction. Mastered by fear. Mastered by validation. Few people master themselves. Become one of the few. Train your mind daily. Protect your peace fiercely. Observe your emotions without becoming enslaved by them. And remember, nothing outside of you can permanently destroy your peace unless you surrender your mind to it. That is the secret. That is the mastery. And once you truly understand it, you will never again let everything affect you the same way. If this message resonated with you, subscribe to the channel and continue this journey toward discipline, emotional strength, and inner peace. Your strongest self is waiting on the other side of self-mastery. Stay calm. Stay disciplined. And never forget that the greatest victory you will ever achieve is mastery over yourself.